On the vast greenstone plaza, two deep grooves were torn open, and at the end of these grooves, two figures slowly withdrew their feet from the ground, which had deeply sunk under their weight. Around the plaza, countless gazes were fixed on the confrontation in the center. The mocking voices that had once filled the air had completely disappeared, and it was clear that many members of the Nine Nether Sparrow clan were shocked by the scene where Chen had used his physical strength to resist. Qin Xuan. Amid the many watching eyes, Qin Xuan, who had just pulled his feet from the ground, gazed at Chen deeply. For the first time, there was a look of seriousness in his eyes. The previous confrontation had made him realize just how powerful this seemingly indifferent youth was. Chen possessed the body of a divine beast, and his strength was even greater than Qin Xuan's. But despite having such advantages, he still hadn't been able to gain the upper hand in their earlier clash. This clearly indicated that Chen was someone he needed to take seriously with all his might. "It seems I misjudged you earlier," Qin Xuan said with a deep breath, speaking slowly. "You're too kind," Chen replied with a slight smile. However, he didn't let this boost his confidence. Qin Xuan's strength was indeed formidable. In their earlier exchange, Chen had pushed his dragon phoenix body to its limits. But even so, he hadn't gained much advantage in a direct physical confrontation with Qin Xuan in the past. Whenever he had clashed with the likes of Netherworld Prince, a physical confrontation would always end in Chen's favor. But this time, the results were not so clear. Clearly, powerful opponents with divine beast bodies were quite troublesome. "In order to express my apology, I'll now use my full strength," Qin Xuan said, his gaze turning sharp again. He suddenly stamped his foot, and instantly, a cold ice storm erupted from his body. Amidst the swirling snowflakes, a massive cold ice giant sparrow appeared behind him. Chi! As soon as the giant ice sparrow appeared, its wings flapped, and a fierce storm of snow and wind swept across the sky. A sharp cry that carried a chilling aura rang out through the heavens and the earth. A powerful spiritual pressure also spread out. Qin Xuan actually summoned his divine beast form. Looks like he's not holding back anymore. Chen actually has some skill to have forced Qin Xuan into this corner. But now that it's come to this, I doubt this battle will have any more surprises. As the giant ice sparrow emerged, whispers broke out once again among the 9 Nether Sparrow clan members. Their expressions were filled with regained confidence, for they all knew just how powerful Qin Xuan would become once he got serious. 9 Nether Frost Sparrow. Chen raised his head, looking at the enormous ice sparrow behind Qin Xuan. His eyes narrowed slightly. This must be Qin Xuan's true form, which followed a completely different evolutionary path from the 9 Nether Soul Sparrow. Although not as rare, the frigid power it wielded was equally troublesome. Qin Xuan truly had no intention of holding back. Chen's expression became more serious, and his palms slowly clenched. Spiritual energy gently flared at his fingertips. Whoosh! Qin Xuan leaped onto the massive body of the 9 Nether Frost Sparrow. His eyes turned cold, and he clenched his palm. Snowflakes rapidly gathered in his hand, and in an instant, they transformed into a giant ice bow. Ancient snowflake patterns appeared on the bow. Once the ice bow appeared in his hands, Qin Xuan's aura became icy and sharp, completely different from before. His gaze locked onto Chen like a hawk, and without saying a word, he drew the bowstring, unleashing a barrage of snowflakes that quickly transformed into a snow arrow nearly 10 yards long. At the tip of the arrow, a cold blue ice gleamed, and a sharp, piercing energy capable of tearing through space silently radiated from it. Swish! The bowstring was pulled tight like a crescent moon, and the snow arrow locked onto Chen. Qin Xuan didn't give him any time to react. With a sudden release of his fingers, the arrow shot forth. Bang! It was as if the sky was filled with countless snowflakes that shattered in an instant. Everyone could only see a white flash streaking through the sky, heading straight for Chen's forehead. The speed was so fast it was like a thunderclap. The moment the snow arrow was shot, Chen's hair stood on end. A chill ran across his skin, and golden light flickered in his eyes. In the next instant, he stamped his foot on the ground, forcing his body to move several zhang to the left. Boom! Just as Chen dodged, a white light struck the ground where he had been standing. The earth immediately shattered, revealing a massive crater filled with ice. A dozen zhang away from the crater, Mu Chen's figure appeared, and he looked at the pit, his heart tightening. He could sense that the rocks within the crater were being eroded by an intense chill that a light touch would turn them to dust. The power of the snow arrow was overwhelming, and most crucially, its speed was incredibly fast. Even though Mu Chen had tried his best to dodge earlier, he had barely avoided it. Creak. Just as Mu Chen was still shocked by the power of Qin Xuan's snow arrow, he heard a faint sound from not far away. He quickly looked up, his pupils contracting as he saw Qin Xuan drawing his bow again. This time, 3 massive snow arrows were formed on the bowstring, and ancient light patterns made of snowflakes appeared at the tips of the arrows. Screech. The sound of arrows cutting through the air rang out as 3 white lights streaked across the sky. That Mu Chen's body retreated rapidly, pushing his dragon phoenix body to its limits, golden light radiating from him. Several afterimages appeared, but they were quickly shattered by the snow arrows that arrived in the blink of an eye. Boom, boom, boom. 3 loud explosions resounded, and once again, deep ice pits appeared on the green stone plaza. Mu Chen's figure, though, appeared somewhat disheveled in the distance. Qin Xuan glanced at Mu Chen indifferently, remaining silent, but as he drew his bow again, 5 ice arrows were formed. Mu Chen frowned deeply upon seeing this. If he allowed Qin Xuan to keep using this relentless barrage of snow arrows, he would inevitably make a critical mistake. Once hit, what followed would be a storm of arrows, likely leading to his collapse. This person's ranged combat is even stronger than his close combat, Mu Chen thought, his eyes flashing with determination. His figure then surged forward, heading straight for Qin Xuan, clearly intending to close the distance, so Qin Xuan could no longer unleash his unending snow arrow barrage. However, upon seeing Mu Chen's move, Qin Xuan merely smiled faintly. He stamped his foot, and the massive cold sparrow flapped its wings. In an instant, a blizzard swept through the area within 1,000 zhang, and the cold sparrow sped to the distance. Meanwhile, Qin Xuan shot several white lights from his hand. Boom! An ice arrow slammed into the ground in front of Mu Chen. The ice quickly spread, forcing Mu Chen to stomp on the ground, halting his momentum and changing direction. Boom! 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 In the next few minutes, Mu Chen was forced into a miserable retreat by Qin Xuan's snow arrows. Every time he tried to close the distance, a strange snow arrow would stop him in his tracks, forcing him to change direction and desperately dodge the incoming barrage of arrows. Watching this from the surrounding area, many members of the 9 Nether Sparrow clan let out a sigh of relief. Over the years, countless people from their clan had suffered terribly under Qin Xuan's tactics. Not only did they lose in combat, but they were also forced to jump around in a panic, looking utterly helpless. At this point, everyone knew that Qin Xuan had already gained the upper hand. On the stone platform, several elders from the 9 Nether Sparrow clan nodded slightly as they watched the scene. Although they felt Qin Xuan's methods were somewhat underhanded, the results were all that mattered in this world. After all, if they encountered enemies in the Divine Beast Plains, no one would care about fair methods. It seems this battle is already decided, said the elder in the green robe with a faint smile. At this rate, even Jiang Ya hasn't made a move yet, and Qin Xuan has already pushed him into such a dire state. It's clear that Mu Chen won't be able to take this spot. Jiao Yu's jade hand clenched tightly. She gazed at the slender figure in the center of the arena, constantly dodging Qin Xuan's fierce attacks, her silver teeth grinding together in frustration. She also knew how unfavorable the current situation was for Mu Chen. This fool, why hasn't he used the Great Sun indestructible body yet? Jiao Yu thought anxiously. If Mu Chen had activated the Supreme Dharmakaya, even if he couldn't win, he would have at least avoided being forced into such a desperate position by Qin Xuan. As Jiao Yu was filled with anxiety, the Patriarch of the Tianhuang clan, standing beside her, looked calmly at the square. He focused on Mu Chen, who was continuously dodging around, when suddenly, his gaze sharpened. This kid, the Patriarch of the Tianhuang clan, intently watched Mu Chen's evasive movements. With his control over the spiritual energy of the world as an Upper Earth Supreme, he vaguely sensed that every time Mu Chen's figure shifted, His feet would touch the ground at that moment. It seemed as if some spiritual energy was being infused into the ground from under his feet. The Patriarch's gaze deepened, becoming as vast as the starry sky. The world began to appear transparent in his eyes. His pupils suddenly contracted, for at that moment, he saw that beneath the ground of the square, an enormous light formation seemed to be hidden, only visible to those with extraordinary perception. That's a spirit array? He's actually a spirit array master? The Patriarch's heart trembled that it turned out that Chen wasn't just in a desperate situation because of Qin Xuan's pressure. Instead, he had quietly set up a huge spirit array beneath the ground, surrounding Qin Xuan. As the Patriarch was shaken, on the square, Chen, who had been dodging desperately, suddenly stood still. He gently stomped his foot on the ground, and a final surge of spiritual energy entered. Finally, unable to move, Qin Xuan said indifferently, "In that case, it ends now." With that, he drew his bow again, this time conjuring dozens of snowflake arrows, a terrifying chill emanating from them. Chen lifted his head at that moment, gazing at Qin Xuan pulling the bowstring. A faint smile appeared on his young face, and he softly said, "After playing with you for so long, it's time to end it." As his last words fell, Chen's foot slammed hard onto the ground. Boom! The ground beneath his feet seemed to shatter, and the entire square erupted with a blinding brilliance. An overwhelming surge of spiritual energy erupted from beneath the earth. Heavenly Net Array, activate. The college entrance exam season is here. It's almost time for the annual college entrance exams again. I believe many readers of The Great Ruler are about to take the exam, and some parents may have children preparing for it. So today, I'd like to share some thoughts about the college entrance exams. Everyone understands the importance of the exam. It determines which university we'll attend and who we'll interact with over the next 4 years. It also reflects on the pride of our parents. But I want to say that the college entrance exam might not be the only path in life. I won't use examples of great historical figures, but I'll talk about the online author community I'm familiar with. Among us authors, very few achieved success through high academic qualifications. We all worked our way up one word at a time, and in the end, we earned recognition. So, if you do well in the exam, celebrate. But if things don't go as planned, don't be too sad. Our lives shouldn't be dominated by just one exam. Each of us should be the ruler of our own destiny, just like Xiao Yin, Lin Dong, and Chen in my stories. If you refuse to succumb to fate, you will surely find a way to succeed. Best wishes to the readers taking the college entrance exam. Boom! The massive greenstone plaza suddenly shook violently. Brilliant lights erupted from the square, shining out in all directions, attracting the astonished gazes of everyone around. What's going on? Many members of the Nine Nether Sparrow clan looked on in disbelief. They stared at the scene, noticing that the light spread out over 1,000-meter radius, and it seemed to cover the area where Qin Xuan was. "It seems like Chen did something," someone exclaimed. It was clear that this was Chen's doing. On top of the stone platform, the elders of the Nine Nether Sparrow clan gazed at the scene in astonishment, their eyes flickering with uncertainty. After a brief moment, their gazes subtly shifted as they focused on the plaza, seemingly sensing something. Amidst the eruption of spiritual light, Qin Xuan's expression also changed. He looked down at the ground where cracks were constantly forming, from which strange spiritual energy fluctuations were emanating. The sudden change startled Qin Xuan, but he quickly reacted without hesitation, summoning the Nine Nether Frost Sparrow. With a flap of its massive wings, a blizzard erupted, and its giant body prepared to soar into the AI. At this point, Qin Xuan could clearly see that Chen's earlier evasive actions had been a diversion. Although he wasn't sure exactly what Chen had done nearby, it didn't matter. Getting out of this area was the most important thing. Once he was clear, he wouldn't hold back and would use all his power to defeat Chen and end the confrontation. Boom! The howling wind and snow accompanied the massive Nine Nether Frost Sparrow as it rapidly ascended. Its speed was like thunder, almost impossible to block. However, as Qin Xuan attempted to retreat, Chen below only gave a faint smile. He then gently raised a hand. Buzz! The already powerful light in the heavens and earth surged to an extreme, forming a massive light barrier that enveloped the entire area. Whoosh, whoosh. The moment the light barrier appeared, countless light rainbows shot out from it, each carrying enormous chains. These chains were covered in ancient runes, glowing with brilliance. As the light rainbow chains appeared, they blotted out the sky, resembling an inescapable net, swiftly covering the entire area. The sudden appearance of the light rainbow chains in the sky startled Qin Xuan. But before he could act, the chains shot toward him, and in a breath's time, they coiled around the massive body of the 9 Netherfrost Sparrow like lightning. Boom. The 9 Netherfrost Sparrow struggled violently, its body bursting with brilliant and violent spiritual energy. Yet, despite its fierce resistance, it couldn't shake off the light rainbow chains. In just a breath, the 9 Netherfrost Sparrow was completely bound. This scene caused Qin Xuan's heart to tremble. He pushed off the ground and shot forward. But just as he moved, he suddenly heard the sound of chains clattering behind him. The chains, like venomous snakes, lashed out, wrapping around his limbs. Bang! Bang! Qin Xuan's spiritual energy exploded violently, trying to break free from the chains, but more chains continuously surged toward him, as if endless, trapping him like a moth caught in a net, unable to escape. Spirit Array? The sudden shift in the situation caused Qin Xuan's face to change drastically. It was only now that he realized what had happened. Chen had secretly set up a powerful spirit array beneath the ground while he had been dodging earlier. This spirit array's binding power is so strong that even I can't break through it. So he was planning this from the start, trying to use the array to slow me down and defeat me. Qin Xuan's eyes flickered. Now he fully understood Chen's strategy. Clearly, Chen had recognized the difficulty of long-range attacks against him. So he had pretended to be weak and secretly set up a binding array to restrict his speed, ultimately aiming to defeat him. Realizing this, Qin Xuan couldn't help but take a deep breath, amazed by Chen's battle awareness. In such a short time, he had come up with a strategy specifically to counter him. Boom. As Qin Xuan processed this, Chen's body suddenly erupted with golden light. A massive golden figure appeared, with a golden sun floating behind its head, radiating an aura of terrifying spiritual power. This was Chen's great sun indestructible body. Without hesitation, Chen summoned the great sun indestructible body and changed his hand seals. Immediately, 5 golden suns appeared within the massive body, then exploded with immense force. Boom. Supreme divine ability, 5 Sun Spear. A golden stream of light surged forward, swiftly transforming into a massive golden spear, thousands of feet in length, within the enormous palm of the great sun indestructible bodied the spear's tip. 5 blazing suns seemed to revolve, and an overwhelming aura of power swept outward. Upon sensing the fluctuations of this golden spear, even Qin Xuan's pupils involuntarily contracted. This kind of attack, even if he weren't bound, would likely require him to use all his strength to barely withstand it. But what's more, in his current state, it would be nearly impossible to resist. This Chen. He was cunning to this extent. If he had used such methods right from the start, he wouldn't have been forced into such a desperate situation. But now, this would also make Qin Xuan more wary, preventing him from setting up his formation in secret. Boom! The golden giant shadow stomped on the ground and shot out rapidly. That golden spear locked onto Qin Xuan, who was desperately channeling his spiritual energy to break free from the spirit array's restraints. However, it was already too late. As he saw the golden giant shadow rapidly closing in, Qin Xuan could no longer suppress his fury and shouted, "Jiang Ya, how long are you going to stand there and watch?" Outside the battle circle, Jiang Ya's face grew grim as he observed the sudden change in the situation. The combat prowess that Chen had suddenly unleashed startled him. This guy? He actually also has the identity of a spirit array master. He had been hiding his true strength from the very beginning. Jiang Ya's eyes flickered. Earlier, he had positioned himself arrogantly, saying that Qin Xuan would deal with Chen. But if he intervened now, it would inevitably attract criticism. However, the current Chen had become so dangerous that he couldn't allow Qin Xuan to lose to him. If Qin Xuan were to be defeated, could he, on his own, handle Chen afterward? If this had been before, He might have responded without hesitation, but now, he no longer had that confidence. Jiang Ya's shifting gaze finally solidified. Without further delay, he clenched his palm, and a crimson long spear materialized. The overwhelming spiritual energy erupted from him like a volcano. Whoosh! Jiang Ya's figure turned into a streak of light, shooting forward with the spear aimed directly at Mu Chun. Clearly, he intended to act like the mantis stalking the cicada while the yellow bird waits behind. Once Mu Chun defeated Qin Xuan, he would seize the opportunity to strike and defeat Mu Chun, that if he succeeded, the final victor would be him. Jiang Ya's move immediately caused an uproar. Some members of the Nine Nether Sparrow clan secretly sneered. This Jiang Ya, who had been so arrogant earlier, was now reduced to sneaking in while Mu Chun focused all his efforts on dealing with Qin Xuan. Regardless of whether Mu Chun won or lost this battle, it seemed that no one in the Nine Nether Sparrow clan would dare to underestimate him again. Under the gazes of countless eyes, Jiang Ya almost instantly entered the battle circle. His spiritual energy erupted without reservation, and his aura of spiritual power spread out, all directed at Mu Chun. His arrival forced Mu Chun, who had just turned the tide of the battle, into a corner once again. After all, whether Mu Chun chose to continue attacking Qin Xuan or turn to defend himself, he was now in a difficult position. The former would leave him open to being defeated by Jiang Ya, while the latter would make him miss the best opportunity to defeat Qin Xuan, that if he withdrew, he would then face the combined forces of Jiang Ya and Qin Xuan. In that case, his chances of victory would be slim. All eyes were locked on Mu Chun, and even the elders of the Nine Nether Sparrow clan were staring intently, eager to see how he would break out of this predicament. Their gazes bore down on him. Jiang Ya's figure grew ever closer to Mu Chun, standing atop the great sun indestructible body. Mu Chun glanced back at the approaching figure, then raised his eyes to look at Qin Xuan, who was struggling nearby. A faint smile seemed to curl at the corner of his mouth at the same time. As his smile appeared, Mu Chun suddenly formed a hand seal and muttered softly, "Green Lotus Spirit Sword Formation, activate." Buzz. The moment Mu Chun's voice fell, a vast expanse of green sword light swept out from the outer reaches of the heavenly net array. The deafening sound of swords humming echoed through the heavens and earth. Swish. Outside the plaza, the crowd erupted in shock. Countless powerful members of the Nine Nether Sparrow clan were stunned. Even several elders couldn't help but change their expressions. They realized that outside the heavenly net array, Mu Chun had secretly set up a spirit array. Previously, he didn't just set up one spirit array, but two. However, the second spirit array, hidden within the first, was so well concealed that even Patriarch Tian Huang failed to detect it at first. After all, his understanding of spirit arrays was not profound. Mu Chun's deception had fooled everyone present. Buzz. Amid the clamor in the square, Mu Chun paid no attention to the noise. With a flick of his finger, a wave of azure light surged and transformed into a gigantic green lotus sword, which pierced through the heavens and earth, shooting straight toward the unprepared Jiang Ya. At the same time that the green lotus sword shot toward Jiang Ya, the giant five-sun spear in the hands of the great sun indestructible body paused for a moment. Then, to the shock of countless onlookers, it suddenly twisted and changed direction, stepping forward in a single stride, appearing directly in front of Jiang Ya. The golden spear whistled as it descended. One spear, one sword. Together, they blocked all of Jiang Ya's escape routes. The overwhelming force instantly drained the color from his face. At this moment, Jiang Ya suddenly realized it wasn't Qin Xuan that Mu Chun had been targeting from the start, but he himself, lying in wait for his entrance. The previously set up and dormant sword formation was clearly meant to guard against him. Once he made a move, he would fall into a desperate situation. Such terrifying battle awareness. In that instant, even Jiang Ya felt a chill running down his spine. Whether it was him or Qin Xuan, both were clearly doomed in this confrontation with Mu Chun. Boom! As Jiang Ya's face turned pale, the golden spear and the green lotus sword had already whistled toward him. The terrifying spiritual energy exploded in front of him, tearing apart the space itself. The shockwave surged, sending Jiang Ya's body flying out of the square. His defenses Shattering instantly, he was hurled out of the square, leaving behind a deep rift in the ground. Jiang Ya's body lay in that rift, covered in blood, his breathing faint. Clearly, he had been thoroughly crushed. Had Mu Chen not held back, facing an Earth-grade advanced spirit array along with the full power of the Great Sun Indestructible Body's attack, Jiang Ya would have already been eradicated. However, even so, Jiang Ya was now so heavily injured that he had no combat power left, and so, under the stunned gazes of countless onlookers, Jiang Ya, who had entered with great confidence, intending to force Mu Chen into a corner, was defeated and forced to retreat. The vast greenstone plaza was now filled with dust and rubble, while the outside of the square had fallen into an eerie silence. The onlookers stood frozen, their eyes wide with disbelief at the scene before them. They never imagined that Mu Chen, who should have been on the brink of defeat, would secretly leave a trump card and, in the moment Jiang Ya entered, force him to retreat in defeat. The entire sequence of events took only a few dozen breaths. As the members of the Nine Nether Sparrow clan regained their senses, they exchanged glances, and their expressions grew serious at this point. Anyone who still underestimated Mu Chen as a mere insignificant human would be truly foolish. Earlier, his handling of Qin Xuan and the subsequent move to eliminate Jiang Ya had left them all secretly horrified on the stone platform. The elders of the Nine Nether Sparrow clan fell into a brief silence. Even the elder in the green robe, who had previously looked down on Mu Chen, now wore an ashen face, unable to rebut. Phew. Jiao Yu quietly let out a sigh of relief. A sense of gratification swelling within her. It seemed that Mu Chen had come prepared for this visit to the Nine Nether Sparrow clan. At least, the two powerful spirit arrays he had used earlier were ones she had never seen before. Moreover, Mu Chen's strength had clearly advanced again, reaching the 6th grade supreme level, which greatly enhanced his combat abilities. She gazed at the slender figure of the young man in the square, feeling a mix of emotions. Unknowingly, the boy who had once been cautious under her pressure had truly grown to a point where he could stand on equal footing with her. Perhaps, not long from now, this once young boy would truly surpass her. Upon thinking of this, Nine Nether glanced at his father beside him. However, the latter remained as calm as ever, gazing at the plaza with no visible movement. Yet, Nine Nether, who knew his father well, could sense that, in that very moment, the gaze of Patriarch Tian Huang had become even deeper than before. Mu Chen's battle was undoubtedly spectacular. Even someone as stringent as Patriarch Tian Huang was impressed. Unable to find any flaws in the Grand Plaza, Mu Chen stood atop the Great Sun Indestructible Body. Watching Jiang Ya leave the stage, there was a hint of surprise on his face. What surprised him was that the power of the Green Lotus Spirit Sword formation exceeded his expectations. This formation was of the Earth-grade advanced level and posed a significant threat even to 6th grade Supremes. However, Jiang Ya had touched the realm of 7th grade Supremes, making him far stronger than the peak of a 6th grade Supreme. This made Mu Chen uncertain if he could defeat Jiang Ya in one strike, but now it seemed that the effect was unexpectedly good. This spirit array's only flaw was its required setup time, but its power was undeniably formidable. If this was the case for an Earth-grade spirit array, one could only imagine the terrifying power of a heavenly-grade spirit array. That he thought to himself that even a true 7th grade Supreme would pay a heavy price if they encountered it. This thought passed through his mind. Mu Chen quickly collected his focus and turned, his calm gaze scanning the plaza to land on Qin Xuan. At this moment, Qin Xuan's body had already broken free of most of the countless light rainbow chains, and the Nine Netherfrost Sparrow was beginning to escape its restraints. The Heavenly Net Array's attack wasn't strong. Its main effect was binding, and it could not bind Qin Xuan for long, especially since Qin Xuan had reached the level of a 7th grade Supreme. The Heavenly Net Array was only Earth grade. Advanced, after all. However, in a battle between powerhouses, this brief time was enough to wipe out the opponent countless times. Sensing Mu Chen's gaze, Qin Xuan's body trembled slightly. Despite Mu Chen's calm expression, Qin Xuan could not help but feel a deep sense of caution. Now, it's just the two of us, Mu Chen said as he stood atop the Great Sun Indestructible Body. He gave Qin Xuan a faint smile, stomped his foot, and the great sun's indestructible body burst forth with dazzling golden light. 5 golden suns erupted within his body, and the golden torrents under the giant hand of the great sun's indestructible body transformed into a massive golden spear over 1,000 feet long. The golden spear slowly rose and pointed directly at Qin Xuan, emitting a terrifying sense of pressure that spread outward. Qin Xuan's face darkened upon seeing this. "My apologies." Mu Chen smiled. He didn't. Give Qin Xuan time to break the heavenly net array's restraints. Seizing the last opportunity, he launched a fierce offensive to end the battle once and for all. Boom! As soon as his voice fell, the great sun's indestructible body exploded into golden light, surging toward Qin Xuan in a mere few breaths. The golden spear thrust forward with devastating force. The golden waves rippled out, and the space shattered into cracks under the impact of the spear. The plaza below was deeply scarred by the massive force. The golden light rapidly expanded in Qin Xuan's eyes. Gritting his teeth, he stomped his foot, and the 9 netherfrost sparrow beneath him let out a sharp screech, releasing a deep blue cold current. Poof! Qin Xuan spat out a mouthful of essence blood, which glimmered with spiritual light, but it quickly fused with the cold current, and immediately, the temperature in the air plummeted. A burst of deep blue light erupted, transforming into a deep blue turtle shell in front of Qin Xuan. Ancient ice patterns appeared on the shell. Protective mystic turtle. Boom! When the deep blue ice turtle shell fully formed, the golden spear collided with it, unleashing a devastating force that struck the shell with tremendous impact. Bang! An indescribable shockwave erupted, cracking the ground beneath. Where the golden spear met the turtle shell, it was as if a fiery sun was slowly rising. As the sun rose, the golden spear in the great sun's indestructible body's hand shattered into numerous cracks, and the cracks spread until the spear could no longer withstand the recoil force, eventually exploding. However, just as the golden spear shattered, the deep blue ice turtle shell also began to peel away in pieces. The moment when the golden giant spear and the turtle shell simultaneously shattered, a sharp glint flashed in Mu Chen's eyes. In the next instant, his figure transformed into a beam of light, forcefully shooting out from the surge of energy. As Mu Chen's figure shot out, the restraints around Qin Xuan's body were shattered by the shockwave. Without hesitation, he retreated rapidly, and at the same time, a giant ice bow reappeared in his hands. The cold bow materialized, and in an instant, Qin Xuan drew it to its full tension, moving with fluid grace. His speed was so fast that the afterimage of his movements had not yet faded when a huge snow arrow, faintly tinged with blood, materialized on the string. An aura so cold it could freeze space itself emanated from it. Creak! Qin Xuan's fingers tightened on the bowstring, ready to release the arrow at any moment. But just as his fingertip was about to let go, his pupils suddenly contracted. He saw the space in front of him ripple, and a slender finger, glowing with spiritual light, appeared before him without warning, lightly touching his forehead. His finger froze in place. Mu Chen's figure appeared right in front of Qin Xuan, his finger resting on Qin Xuan's brow. Mu Chen looked at him with a calm expression, not saying a word, completely unconcerned by the snow arrow, pointed mere inches away from his face. Qin Xuan's gaze stiffened as he stared at Mu Chen. In that moment, he trembled slightly, because he could tell from Mu Chen's eyes that the moment he released the bowstring, that finger would strike first, and his head would be shattered instantly. There would be no hesitation. Outside the square, countless spectators watched this breathtaking scene, holding their breath. One had expected the battle to become so perilous, under the watchful eyes of many. The standoff in the square lasted for a few dozen seconds. Finally, Qin Xuan could no longer bear the pressure. He sighed helplessly, and the snow arrow on his bowstring slowly began to melt away. "You win." Qin Xuan stared at Mu Chen, his voice tinged with bitterness. He knew that while this standoff seemed to have no clear winner, he was fully aware that the moment he let go of the bowstring, Mu Chen would have struck him down. If this were a life-or-death battle, Mu Chen would have undoubtedly struck without a second thought. Upon hearing Qin Xuan's words, a faint smile appeared on Mu Chen's calm face. Slowly, He withdrew his finger and cupped his hands in a bow, saying with a smile, "Thank you for the challenge." His voice was gentle, and with the smile on his handsome face, he gave the impression of being harmless. But Qin Xuan, having personally experienced their earlier clash, knew exactly what lay behind that harmless smile. Decisiveness and ruthless methods, the human standing before them, one who had formed a bloodline bond with Prince Jiao, was far from the weakling they had initially thought him to be. His abilities were far beyond what they could have imagined. Moreover, Qin Xuan had a gut feeling that Chen had held back during their earlier clash, which made him feel a chill down his spine. If Chen had attacked without holding back, what would the result have been? This person was extraordinary. With a quiet sigh, Qin Xuan, as proud as he was, had no choice but to acknowledge Chen's strength. As Qin Xuan silently acknowledged Chen's power, Chen took 2 steps back. Then, under the countless astonished gazes of the onlookers, he turned towards the Patriarch of the Tian Huang clan at the front, smiling slightly. "Patriarch Tian Huang, I humbly accept the final spot." Chen's voice echoed across the square, drawing countless complex gazes. But this time, no one mocked him, for his earlier performance had won them over. Even the elders who had previously criticized him found themselves at a loss for words. Clearly, they had never expected that Chen would truly defeat Jiang Ya and Qin Xuan. This Chen has proven himself worthy to represent our 9 Nether Sparrow clan in the Divine Beast Plains. Some members of the 9 Nether Sparrow clan nodded inwardly. Given Chen's earlier display of strength, the only ones in their younger generation who could surpass him were likely Mo Feng and 9 Nether. Moreover, the key point is that Chen is only a 6th grade supreme, while Mo Feng and 9 Nether have a much higher standing. Mo Feng has been a 7th grade supreme for many years, while 9 Nether, after returning to the clan, underwent a powerful inheritance that allowed him to smoothly break through. Therefore, Chen's potential is enormous if he manages to break through again in the Divine Beast Plains and ascends to 7th grade supreme. He would certainly have the power to battle against the geniuses of the Divine Beast races. On the stone seat, the elders of the 9 Nether Sparrow clan saw the many murmuring clan members and exchanged glances. They could only secretly smile wryly. Elder Tian Ke, after withdrawing his gaze from Chen, turned to face the Qingpao elder, who had always opposed him, and smiled. "Elder Qing, I trust you won't oppose anymore, will you?" The Qingpao elder's face alternated between pale and green. After a long pause, he grumbled, "This person is indeed powerful, but he is human. Will it really be appropriate for him to enter the Divine Beast Plains? Although he is human, he has formed a bloodline bond with 9 Nether. There will be no issues with him entering the Divine Beast Plains." Elder Tian Ke replied. The Qingpao elder fell silent. Seeing Elder Tian Ke's ambiguous smile, he could only wave his sleeve and say, "Then I hope he won't achieve nothing in the Divine Beast Plains." Elder Tian Ke ignored the angry Qingpao elder and instead turned his gaze to Patriarch Tian Huang, waiting for his final decision. Patriarch Tian Huang's expression remained calm. His hand gently caressed the back of his chair, and after a moment he spoke lightly. "My 9 Nether Sparrow clan is a clan of integrity. Since you defeated Jiang Ya and Qin Xuan, the 4th spot for entering the Divine Beast Plains is yours." Upon hearing Patriarch Tian Huang's words, Chen sighed in relief. While the Divine Beast Plains represented a huge opportunity for him, what mattered most to him was helping 9 Nether cleanse the bloodline impurities tainted by the contamination. The bloodline of 9 Nether had been corrupted, and if he didn't help cleanse this hidden danger, his conscience would be troubled. "Thank you, Patriarch Tian Huang." Chen cupped his hands and respectfully expressed his gratitude. He knew that, for now, he had temporarily suppressed the trouble caused by the bloodline bond with 9 Nether. This was the best outcome, as he didn't need to leave the great Luo Heaven domain, and 9 Nether wouldn't have to choose between him and her clan. Patriarch Tian Huang looked down at Chen, his face, which had always been like still water, finally showing a faint smile. "Your appearance here is the part one I'm most satisfied with. Even though you defeated Jiang Ya and Qin Xuan, nothing can compare to this." Chen was stunned by these words. If a man can't even take on this kind of responsibility and only knows how to avoid problems, No matter how talented he is, he won't amount to much, Patriarch Tian Huang said, his deep eyes now filled with a hint of approval as he assessed Mu Chen. Although I rarely intervene in Nine Nether's decisions, if you had not appeared here at the agreed time, I would have severed your bloodline connection with Nine Nether. At that point, no matter where you tried to escape, my Nine Nether Sparrow clan would have found you. However, I am glad I didn't have to resort to such measures, and Nine Nether seems to have a good eye for people this time. In the end, Patriarch Tian Huang gave a slight nod, and his words conveyed a clear sense of approval towards Mu Chen. The surrounding elders of the Nine Nether Sparrow clan exchanged peculiar glances upon hearing Patriarch Tian Huang's words. They knew too well what Patriarch Tian Huang's standards were. Over the years, only a few of the younger generation had received such recognition from him. Looking at the way Patriarch Tian Huang spoke to Mu Chen, it was clear that he was greatly satisfied on the side. Nine Nether was also astonished as she looked at her father. She had not expected him to give Mu Chen such an evaluation. Unable to hold back, she quietly patted her chest in relief. It was fortunate that Mu Chen had not followed her advice to leave the Great Luo Heaven domain and hide. Otherwise, if her father had developed a negative impression of him, with his stubborn personality, it would have been very difficult for him to accept Mu Chen as for the bloodline bond. That would have been impossible. Thinking of this, Jiu couldn't help but glance at Mu Chen, who also looked back at her. When he noticed the lingering fear in her eyes, Mu Chen instead grinned. He didn't blame Jiu for her earlier suggestion. Of course, he had no reason to blame her. Jiu's actions were entirely for his benefit. After all, no one had expected that Mu Chen would actually secure the last spot, successfully snatching it from the jaws of Jiang Ya and Qin Xuan. Patriarch Tian Huang seemed not to notice the exchanged glances between Mu Chen and Jiu. He simply spoke in a calm tone. The Divine Beast Plains is a treasure land within the Spirit Beast realm. While there are many opportunities, it is also filled with endless dangers. In the ancient times, the extraterritorial clans destroyed the Divine Beast Plains and unleashed their evil qi into it. Even now, it hasn't dissipated. Under the influence of this evil qi, countless unexpected events have occurred. Mu Chen nodded at the words. After arriving in the northern domain, this was not his first encounter with the evil qi of the extraterritorial clans. He understood how strange and troublesome these forces, foreign to the Great Thousand Worlds, could be. Of course, the most dangerous aspect of the Divine Beast Plains lies in the geniuses from other Spirit Beast and Divine Beast clans. They compete for opportunities, and over countless millennia, the Divine Beast Plains has likely become littered with the bones of these proud heirs. Mu Chen nodded again. From the recent battle, he had learned just how formidable the young elites from these powerful Spirit Beast clans and Divine Beast races were. Whether it was Jiang Ya or Qin Xuan, they were far stronger than the likes of Netherworld Prince and Fang Yi. Yet, these two were not even the strongest among the younger generation of the Nine Nether Sparrow clan. This gave Mu Chen a sense of how terrifying the geniuses from other clans of equal or even greater strength might be. If he were to help Jiu acquire the Phoenix God blood, it seemed inevitable that they would face a fierce competition. But no matter how difficult it might be, he would give it his all. After all, Jiu had helped him so much over the years, and now it was his turn to repay her. Among the 4 who will enter the Divine Beast Plains from our clan, apart from you, there are 3 others, said Patriarch Tian Huang as he glanced at Jiu. Jiu is one of them. You should also get to know the other 2. Hearing this, Mu Chen felt a surge of curiosity. He knew how precious the spots in the Nine Nether Sparrow clan were, so he was eager to see who the other 2 talented individuals were. Whoosh! Just as Patriarch Tian Huang finished speaking, 2 figures shot in from outside the plaza, appearing swiftly and respectfully bowing to him. Mu Chen's gaze immediately turned toward them, filled with curiosity. The 2 figures were a man and a woman. The man was tall and handsome, but his expression was indifferent. He didn't react at all to Mu Chen's scrutiny, his cold demeanor giving off an air of distance, as if rejecting anyone from getting close. Despite his indifference, Mu Chen could sense an immense pressure emanating from him, enough to make his eyes involuntarily narrow. This person's strength was on par with the Azura King. Clearly, this aloof man had reached the 7th grade supreme level. Beside him stood a petite girl dressed in purple. She had a beautiful face, her hair tied in a ponytail, and exuded a youthful and lively energy. Noticing Mu Chen's gaze, she turned toward him with a grin, her eyes friendly as she also appraised him. "I'm Mo Ling, and this is my older brother, Mo Feng. We saw your battle earlier. It was impressive." Mo Ling waved her small fist at Mu Chen, flashing a bright smile and showing off her cute tiger-like teeth. "Thank you," Mu Chen replied with a friendly smile, though he was somewhat surprised that Mo Feng's strength was extraordinary. He was probably the only person in the 9 Nether Sparrow clan who could rival Jiang Ya. Yet Mo Ling seemed to have only the strength of a regular 6th grade supreme, weaker than even Jiang Ya and Qin Xuan. How could she be one of the 4 chosen? As Mu Chen pondered this, Mo Feng turned to look at him and said, "Since you've obtained a spot, we will be teammates in the Divine Beast Plains that I hope we can help each other out when the time comes." While his words were friendly, his cold expression didn't soften at all, creating a somewhat awkward atmosphere. Mu Chen could tell, however, that Mo Feng didn't hold anything against him. It seemed to be simply his nature. "My brother has always been like this, don't take it personally," Mo Ling quickly explained, worried that Mu Chen might misunderstand. "It's fine." Mu Chen smiled, showing his understanding. This was their first meeting, and he had a good impression of the sibling duo. At least, interacting with them seemed far easier than with people like Jiang Ya. On the stone seat, Patriarch Tian Huang of the Heavenly Rock clan saw that both sides had greeted each other, nodded, and then waved his hand. His clear and decisive voice resonated throughout the hall. "Mu Chen, you will stay here from now on. In 10 days. The Divine Beast Plains will open completely. At that time, the 4 of you will represent my 9 Nether Sparrow clan and enter the Divine Beast Plains to seek opportunities." Hearing this, Mu Chen, Mo Feng, Mo Ling, and the 9 Nether Sparrow in front all solemnly cupped their fists. "Obey the Patriarch's orders."